tuning in to Peaches and Power Bombs. Hello, everybody. What is up? I am Sarah Hirsch. To my left, well, to everybody's right, my business partner, Tina Miller, joining us. And we have a special guest today. On my right, your left. He is the manager of Champions. He is promoter of Stranglehold Championship Wrestling. He's worked with people such as Tony Atlas, Road Warrior Animal, and Sergeant Slaughter, Kurt Angle, amongst the best of the best. We have Eric Nelson joining us today.
Well, thank y'all for having me. Sorry, the weather's so bad. We're gonna sit here in the Bronco and fire away when you're ready, ladies.
No worries, no worries. So, last time that I talked to you, Nelson, he told me an interesting story on how he got started in this crazy world of wrestling. It was actually an awesome story. So I'm going to have you tell that for those that don't really know a whole lot about you, but just kind of give an insight to how you got started, you know, and all that
certainly.
good stuff.
Majority of people know that I served 24 years in the United States Navy. I was on board an aircraft carrier in Virginia. Of course, we would get Armed Forces Radio Television Network very late at night. And there was a product that we would receive right out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, called Extreme Championship Wrestling, or ECW. So we would smuggle a little bit of medicine on board ship, you know, the drinking kind. And we would watch Extreme Championship Wrestling. I had a buddy named Richard who was from Philadelphia who says, "Hey, why don't we next payday we get a bunch of beers, a bunch of liquor, and we route to Philadelphia." He says, "I know where this building is, and we go catch one of these shows live and in living color." We're like, "Absolutely!" You know, I was a 20-year-old kid, and I was always looking for a party. You know, no matter where it did itself. So you know, all the stories you've heard about drink like a sailor are very true. Mm-hmm. I'm living proof of that. Anyway, so as luck would have it, the Old Dominion University decided to throw some sort of sorority party, so the boys thought they were going to go get lucky. So it ended up being me and Richard and 3 coolers of alcohol. So, of course, by the time I got to Philadelphia, Richard decided he hadn't seen his girlfriend in 3 weeks, so now it's down to myself and 3 coolers of beer in the old town car I was riding around in. Had a very old town car at the time. You know, everybody thought it my hoopty.
Yeah.
You know you're old if you get the reference. But,
yeah.
So as I'm pulling up to this building, because Richard said, turn here, turn there, just right there. Drop me off right here. Enjoy your day. Let me know how the show is. I'm just like, okay. So I get there and I see a fellow outside smoking a cigarette. So I was like, well, this must be where I go purchase my ticket. So he sees me, throws a cigarette out real quick, goes inside. And you guys are going to laugh when I tell you who it was, if you're familiar with him. So I go in there, I open the door, and I'm in the ECW locker room.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh boy, I'm about to get deep trouble here. So I go to leave, and Sabu had just put his shoes on and stepped up and he introduced himself. He says, "You must be new." I said, "Yeah, first time." I said, "Came check you guys out." He's like, "Got one of those beers for me?" I was like, "Yeah, come on." You know, go back out to my car there, grab one out of the cooler for him, and he proceeds to tell me what a great place this is and how the locker room's great. I'm enjoying myself here and I'll fit in well and all this other stuff. And I'm like, these guys think I'm a wrestler. Of course, I was 20 and I was military, so I was in the shape of my life, to say the least. I just spend a lot more time in the gym now. Now, gym's just the name of my server when I go to the restaurant. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, you know, that began my long story relationship with Sabu. He's probably one of the guys I've known the longest in this business. And, of course, by the end of the night, we're cruising down the interstate with Sabu and several of the ECW guys in tow. And these crazy idiots are throwing beer bottles out of my window. I'm like, man, y'all gonna get me arrested. So one dude grabs says, "Get off right here." We all end up at Sandman's house.
Oh wow.
And that right there is a story all in itself. I can say this. I can sum up ECW. It was like a huge party with a little bit of wrestling. It was probably
It
one of the
sounds
most
like it.
one of the most insane, one of the most chaotic, one of the most fun things I've ever witnessed in all my life. To be involved with them, to know guys like Sabu, Dreamer, Credible, Sandman. I mean, down the line, and even at one
Yeah.
point, he doesn't answer to this no more. But Superstar Steve Austin.
Mm-hmm.
He had a lot different look and a lot different perspective back then. But I wish I got to know him a little better than I did. I mean, who knows where I'd be now, right?
Right, right.
But to this day, I'm still friends with Sabu. Love him to death. I mean, you guys, Sarah, you know, you've been to a couple of shows where I've had him on. And it's always been a party when he shows up.
Yeah. The one thing that I remember when you said it was really fun and everything, I remember, I want to say, when I watched one of the ECW documentaries, I want to say it was Bubba Ray that said it, but I can't remember. He said that was the main thing. It was fun.
It was. I mean, that was
that was the one thing they always said. It was fun. And
that was the tightest and most fun locker room I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, aside from my own, but you know, not too my own.
Yeah, the last show I went to, Nelson did a show in Fort Valley. At the time, we were, or he was. I think you were trying to revive wrestling in Fort Valley. At the WrestlePlex, and and anyway, he had a show there, and he had Sabu there, and
yeah, that was crazy. Sabu and Danny Bourne, that was quite a spectacle, wasn't it?
Yeah, the stars were aligned, and I actually got to go, and
I'm glad.
My brother was like, "Oh yeah, you're going to sit with us," and I'm like, "Oh okay, you know, whatever, you know." Of course, Nelson does Stranglehold Championship Wrestling. Before then, it was All Star Wrestling Network, or AWN, as people in Middle Georgia knew.
Which is where the you know, and it's funny how we talk about your brother in AWN and all that, because that was where the second chapter of my wrestling career began. Now, where ECW ended for me was I married my first wife.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't have a whole lot of trust in me going out and doing stuff with the guys or anything. So, not to mention going to Philly on one of those weekends, you know, because, you know, ECW wasn't just, you know, a one-day trip. It was a weekend.
Right.
And it usually involved copious amounts of drinking and waking up in a strange place with a bunch of strange people. To say the least. Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember you had me in the booth.
There.
Mm-hmm. I just remember you had me sitting in the booth with my brother, and I thought I was just going to sit there and watch. And all of a sudden, I'm running the computer, and I'm like, I don't know who comes out the what. He
you did a wonderful job, by the way.
Thank you.
You did a wonderful job. You did.
I tried. And I know Sabu had just came in, and like I was oblivious. I didn't realize it was him. I saw Jeannie. God rest her soul.
God rest her soul. That was
yeah.
You know, my wife's still taking that pretty hard. You know, of course, I'm married to the illustrious Brandy Scott Baker. For those of you who don't know, and of course, Brandy Scott Baker and Jeannie. Well, this is back when Jeannie was just Melissa Coates before she took on the moniker Super Jeannie. They had matches galore and had traveled to many shows together.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, they would put on a clinic together. And, you know, I tried talking my wife into dressing up that night and getting in there with her, but...
yeah, I think she stayed in concessions most of the night. Yeah.
She did. I'm like, get your gear on, Jeannie. You know, Melissa wants to work with you, you know. You know, let's have a ladies match. You know, I was begging because I wanted to see it. You know, because you know, anytime those two were in the ring, it was fluid. You know what I mean? It was, Cindy, you heard the phrase "putting on a clinic." Well, that's a prime example for women's wrestling. Would have been Brandy Scott Baker and Melissa Coates, known as Super Jeannie, that was a class example of putting on a clinic. Just straight up traditional fundamental wrestling at its best.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember you looking at me like, how you doing, kiddo? And I'm like, yes, I love pro wrestling. I love pro wrestling. Woo, boy, I'm nervous.
If you don't already know this, expect the unexpected when it comes to me. 'Cause I'm gonna keep you on your toes. You know what I'm saying? Because my entire wrestling career, Well, I'll go into chapter 2, which is AWN.
Okay.
I discovered AWN. Now, of course, I had a small hiatus from wrestling from about 98 to 2002. I wasn't really involved in independent professional wrestling due to my deployment schedule, and then going through a divorce, and and then getting remarried. Yeah, well, I've lived a sailor's life. What can I say? So I discovered AWN in Fort Valley. I was home on transfer leave. I had the flu, something terrible. And a good buddy of mine named Scott I went to school with says, "Hey, man, the Rock and Roll Express is wrestling in Fort Valley, Georgia tonight." I said, "Man, the Rock and Roll Express in the 80s? Wow. Yeah, I'd like to go check that out." A little bit of Crown Royal and a Longhorn steak later, and a trip to Fort Valley later, I was a new man. So this leads me into discovering one of my old time buddies was a wrestler, and I didn't know that until that night. Third match, they said, "Coming to the ring, Dangerous Danny Horn."
Oh yeah.
And I said, "That ain't dangerous, nobody." That old punk right there, and I will not repeat this on the air because I swore to him I would never go there again. I don't want to make him mad. I mean, definitely want to upset him.
Don't embarrass him.
Yeah, I ain't gonna do him like that. We all love Danny. Danny has a special place in our hearts, right?
Yes, Danny was one of the mainstays of AWN Fort Valley.
And of course, one of the inaugural roster members of Stranglehold, and also along with your brother, one of class of 2020 Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. And of course, I have not found a viable opponent for him yet to drop the belt, but he is still the reigning Warzone champion.
Okay.
We'll go back to that night. I hollered at, got the crowd in that building chanting it. Boy, he was ready to murder me. He had no idea who that was. That embarrassed him. And he comes over.
Danny.
You want to talk about the F-bomb? Mike was real big on no F-bombs in the building.
Yes.
He dropped about 16 of them in a row, wondering who the bleepity bleep 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 called him bleep. You know what I'm saying?
Oh gosh.
And then I leaned in like, "Me, you dirty dog, what you gonna do about it?" he had no idea I was home, so he hadn't seen me in a couple of years. So
I got you.
I said, "Hey man, get Carl the Berry with me real quick. Go with me."
Mike, who he's referring to, was the late great Mike Money. He recently passed away, and he was the one who ran the shows in AWN.
You missed his induction, by the way.
Alan's?
I inducted Mike Money and Dirty Don the same night.
Oh, you did? Okay. Yeah, I did. I know, because you always plan things when I'm at work.
Well, I definitely want to. I definitely want to touch on Mike a lot this broadcast.
Absolutely.
Because he's an integral part, and also the formation of Stranglehold, which I'll get to that.
Yes.
So me and Danny, I hop over the barrier. Danny kind of leads me to the back. We look like we're beating each other up and stuff. He gets me in the back, hugs me, and says, "What's up, man? Where you been?" He said, "How long you home for?" I said, 3 years. He's like, and I just seen the gears turning in his head. I'm like, what's he about to talk me into?
Uh-oh. Oh, you never know with him. That's the thing.
No, you don't. You never know what Danny Horn is going to try to talk you into. But that's okay. I love the guy. My brother from another mother, just like yours. I like to scab his knob once in a while, just to keep him honest. By the way, the new teeth that he's got, I still ain't used to those yet.
Yes, my brother had major dental work done a couple months ago.
I
He
mean,
got
it's just like
dentures.
I can't even get over that. It's like this don't know.
Yeah, so tell me how you and my brother did meet and got to be how y'all were.
Well, this kind of leads into that. Of course, as
Okay.
Danny's following me around the locker room, introducing me to everybody, we go back to what was the heel locker room, but the rock and roll was using it to get dressed, and they invited me to a gentleman's establishment after the show.
Oh yeah.
And that involved
I
copious
have
amounts
a feeling
of
I know what that is.
that involved copious amounts of medicine and lots of scenery. Yeah, that's it.
We'll say that.
We'll say that. Yeah. Well, anyway, so I meet Mike Money there, and he offers me my first job in wrestling. Just kind of help him watch the door and make sure nobody's running off with his money or anything. No problem. I've been a bouncer at a club before. Old hat. Well, he says one thing to me that stuck with me throughout my wrestling career to this day, and that was, man your battle stations. And he was not kidding, because for those of you who don't really know or understand the wrestling business as a whole, it is a ever constant battle.
Yeah.
There are people out here that, especially, and I'll touch on this real quick, especially the ones you try to help the most are the ones that will do you the worst. And there was a lot of those former AWN types that I feel led to AWN's demise. I also feel that there were a lot of broken promises, especially to Mike, and I never forgave a lot of them for that. I can't look at all of them the same, and I promise you this, I will not ever give them credit for anything, nor will I ever induct them into this Hall of Fame. And you can put that on record.
Yeah, for so long AWN was mainstay in Central
Well, I'm gonna
Georgia.
tell you, when I joined AWN, Mike Money had only had it for just a few months, and this was something. Now I'll go forward with Mike Money a little bit, because this kind of ties into it. This also ties into your brother.
Okay.
Let's go a week forward to that. I'm driving up the street, and I see a gentleman I recognize taking the trash out, and it's Mike Money. I was like, hey man, jump in the trash can, and you could take that to the bank. And he starts laughing. He's like, oh God, somebody knows me. He's like, well, hey man, what are you doing here? I said, I lived around the corner from you. He said, really? He said, you got any plans for lunch? I said, I was actually on my way to go find something. I said, old lady left with her, my ex at the time. My ex, who I was married to at the time, it took off with her mom and just kind of left me to my own devices. He said, well, I'm about to put some steaks on. Why don't you turn around right here in this gas station and come back over here and park? He said, you drink? I said, there's a bear poop in the woods? Of course. So, we found out the one thing Mike and I had in common, we both loved Crown Royal. Do you drink at all, Tina?
Oh, no.
Okay, well, what about you, Sarah? You have the occasion? Well, of course you do.
Sometimes.
Have you tried a Mike Money yet?
I have not.
Okay, well, I'll tell you a quick by the way about him. This is where that drink came to be, of course. It came after his...
Yeah, you posted something about it, so yeah, do tell the story.
Mike religiously drank orange juice every morning, and he drank Crown Royal every night before bed, so I combined the two. And of course, he got to where apple was his favorite, so, therefore the Mike Money was born. Now, of course, you can use any Crown Royal and orange juice, that's still a Mike Money. But, yeah, I will have one or two of those myself before bed, for medicinal purposes, right?
Right.
right. Anyway, so after that evening, show rolls back around. I get invited to come out, start working out with them every Tuesday. If you remember when we'd all go out on Tuesdays.
Yep.
So that was when I met this really scrawny kid with a bald head, wearing Under Armour underwear with a PP stripe on it, and he said his name was Cue Ball. And there was this other little runt next to him. He said his name was Ricky Silver.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, nice to meet you. Where's the rest of you?
Yeah, even
What was
after
he
all
like?
these years, there ain't much to either of them.
No, Al's definitely put on some pounds since then.
Yeah,
You know, you've been so proud of him in Jacksonville. He was looking like a boss walking around in there handling business.
really, really.
He has come a long, long way. And I'm going to tell you something. Cue Ball and Dirty Don, I could not ask for a better commentary team. I'm going to tell you. The best commentary team assembled next to myself and Michael Scott, if you remember those days.
Him and Ricky were good too. They were there. They were commentating that night I was there, and the way that they ebbed and flowed was just, it was phenomenal.
I mean, Ricky was all right, but it's just Dirty brings a different perspective.
Yeah.
Dirty brings that, you know, because if you look at JR and Jerry the King Lawler, you know how different the big difference of opinion they have, but at the same time the way they can mesh. It's a lot like Cue Ball and Dirty.
Yeah, that's a tall order too. Very tall order.
You know, myself and Michael Scott, you know, had that pretty good. You know, because I was, of course, the first ever ring announcer and first ever commentator for AWN as well.
Yeah.
There were a lot of firsts there. I was also the first actual GM, you know, / commissioner of AWN.
Yeah, because when I was there wasn't really a whole lot of that going on. There was definitely no commentary. We didn't have, there was no flyers. I mean,
There was nothing. I mean,
people knew of AWN strictly from word of mouth, and even then they managed to they got Jake on this show one time, and they got oh God, who? Oh, Ron Simmons. Ron Simmons was actually there at one point. And,
that's right. It was Ron Simmons and Lanny Poffo on the same night. By the way,
that's right. Yes.
Now
yes, I was there. Yes.
I did help bring Jake Roberts to that as well. He did.
Mm-hmm.
It was a nice draw, but he was kind of a headache.
Oh.
Well, I'm sure that was before his transformation.
That was way before his transformation. So, he brought in.
This was like 2005, I want to say.
Okay,
it was somewhere around there. Yeah.
He
brought in some.
Doing well then.
He brought in some powder that shouldn't have been there. He also was late to the meet and greet on a military base. You know, Mike and I were both active duty at the time, and ended up assaulting an officer on that base as well. Just this Air Force captain walks up to Jake and he says, "Is wrestling fake?" He punches the guy in the gearbox and says, "Well, you tell me, does this feel fake?"
Ooh.
He'd probably still do that, even though he's sober now.
Probably now. Now, given any other situation other than everybody and their brother, including the general of the base, was watching, I would have said go for it. But yeah, there's certain things that sometimes you gotta look the other way on some things. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, he's, you know, them old school guys. They don't take to that very well.
I'm telling you.
Needless to say, one of the reasons Mike decided not to bring him back, that and he was under the influence very heavily
at that time. Yeah. This was long. I remember that he was there that night. Lanny Poffo was there too. I remember that. It was a big night for AWN, and
yeah, that was Ron and Lanny, and then Jake was there 3 months prior.
Yep. Yeah, and it was right in the middle of when I started going all the time.
A lot of people don't know this, but AWN almost died before it really got started.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I was lucky about, and very few know this, is my profession at the time that I was involved with AWN. I was a recruiter for the Navy in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So not only did I have the Peach County area, but I had access to well over 18 high schools, several community colleges, and not to mention the other universities that were, you know, like Georgia Southwestern and Americas.
Right.
Of course, whatever Middle Georgia College is now. You know, I had a lot of access to people that otherwise wouldn't have been. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Of course,
yeah.
Mike.
So go ahead.
Mike had to be careful with the base because he worked on that base. Mm-hmm. I would go and advertise on the base and even sell tickets on the base, and wouldn't be no skin off of him,
And you're talking about the base in Warner Robins, right?
Right.
Okay. The Air Force Base in Warner Robins.
I also went as far down as Fort Benning and advertised there.
Yes. Yeah, and that's in Columbus.
So I attribute a lot of that to the fact that we ran every week. We ran every Saturday night at that time, and it was normal.
We did.
It was normal to get no less than 250 people a week.
Mm-hmm.
So, needless to say, we were turning and burning, but, like I said earlier in the broadcast, there were too many people that I feel did not have Mike's best interest in mind, and honestly, to this day, they still can't get out of their own way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just what it is.
And the thing, with all that, it's sad, and but now that Mike Money is no longer with us, he really left behind a lasting legacy. I mean, not just for those that were granted the opportunity by him to wrestle for AWN, but I mean, I was, although I'm Alan's sister, Cue Ball, main attraction Michael Hirsch, whatever you want to call him, just having that opportunity to see these guys every week. We had people like John Davis and Michael Stevens. They did big things. I want to say John Davis did some stuff in Ring of Honor. I think he was in the tag team scene, and then Michael Stevens was on Dark. So I remember my brother trained Michael Stevens, and I'm just like, your mind is blown when you see that. It's kind of like how you are with Danny and David and others, Tina.
Yeah. I don't know if some people really understand how much of a contributing factor that the indie wrestling scene really has.
Well, yeah, because it's the grassroots. Because if you don't have independent wrestling will die.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because if AEW, Impact, WWE, and all that all of a sudden shut down, we still have the indies.
Right.
Yes.
Now let me touch on that a little bit. It was part of the reason that made the NWA what it became. Mm-hmm. What really made the Legends who they are was they were able to work. They had places to work. It's like till AEW came along. Then even when Impact was TNA, there still weren't that many places to work or get in front of people.
Right.
Like the Road Warriors, for example. It was noted way earlier that I had a lot of rapport with Road Warrior Animal. God rest his soul.
Yes.
All these people I'm having to speak in past tense about. It's kind of crazy to think about, but it's funny because they started in Georgia Championship Wrestling, and I mean the original Georgia Championship Wrestling, not this group that's walking around using that name illegally, I might add. But the Road Warriors started here. Abdul the Butcher started here. Tony Atlas started here.
Yes.
But then they left here. Went in Hawk and Animal's case, they went to AWA for Vern Gagne. Tony Atlas and Abdullah went to Mid-Atlantic, and every time you turn around, they're in a different territory. The Crockett's had a lot to do with that. Crockett's were a great big territory all their own, Jim Crockett Promotions. So when the NWA kind of all came together, it was, okay, we're going to vote on who's the champion. Which is why Ric Flair got so many championship runs, why Harley Race got what he got, and vice versa, Dusty Rhodes. I mean, that's how the Legends were built, was, okay, over here they're in St. Louis, working for this promoter. Now they're over here working for this promoter. And it gives a lot of perspective. Here's the problem I see with a lot of indies here. I mean, sure, they can go to AEW Dark, but I have to be honest here, and I'm playing devil's advocate when I say this, ladies. But AEW Dark is basically Indies 2.0.
Well, at least it
to
gets,
a certain extent.
Yeah.
I mean, so like they'll have somebody come in and job out to Billy Gunn.
Yeah.
I mean, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's not like they're on Dynamite or anything mainstream.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's the opportunity more than anything to get noticed and have the opportunity to work with some people. like Danny with Jade Cargill. Jade Cargill, they're building her to be a star. So
right, and
Well-
you know, Danny did the job for her, and David's done the job for Ricky Starks, and he got murdered by Lance Archer.
oh yeah, poor dude.
Poor thing.
I like Lance Archer.
Oh, I do too. I like all of those people.
I've been on. Speaking of guys, I've been on shows with and locker rooms with. I mean, what a professional! What a great guy! He's got the right attitude. He works well with others. Hold on, let's sit in the studio here for a little bit.
Okay, and one of my points that I was going to get to about that is, sure, those people might be on AEW Dark and maybe occasionally on Dynamite if they need a squash match, and there's nothing wrong with that because you need those in order to build somebody's credibility up. And the Hardy Boys, that's how they got started, was jobbing out to people, and they worked themselves way up. But if you really want to see what they can do as far as in the ring, their character work, their in-ring work, everything, go to an indie show because they can actually showcase what they can do there.
Yes.
Right. And again, let's play devil's advocate here because I am, in fact, the manager of champions. It goes back to a lot of people ask me about where do I find my roster for Stranglehold. Well, it's simple. I scout across this country looking for the best unsigned talent. And not to mention that, the ones that are going to make me money.
Right.
There are so many of those people out there that they're still lacking something, even though they get these AEW Dark opportunities. There's some of those people that are still lacking, and they're not really there yet. But you're right, it does give them a chance to showcase. But some of them don't take the constructive criticism on, okay, you could have done that a lot better. You need to improve your game. You need to improve your gimmick. You need to improve your ability. Not to mention, here's a lost art: promos.
Yeah.
Some of these guys could not
It's a dying art, I think.
Yeah.
They could not promo their way out of a wet paper bag.
Mm-hmm.
They just couldn't do it. And to me, okay, and let me piggyback with that. I'm sorry. I once approached Road Warrior Animal, and I asked him, can there be another Road Warriors? Because once you're gone, what's left of the Road Warrior legacy? He kind of gave me this gruff look at first, like, I'd stepped on his toe or something. But the fact that I had rapport with Animal, he says, well, I'll tell you what, I'll make you a deal. He said, if you can find me two guys that not only have the look and the ability, but can promo like me, Hawk and Animal, and Precious Paul did, I will gladly showcase them on your show. And, 2019 call to arms, it was Animal and the War Kings. So, I mean, those were the three biggest criteria. Do you have the look? Do you look like you should be part of a faction? Big, ugly, fat farts eating together? Yeah, get it? Buffet. Big, ugly, fat farts eating together, and farts was alternated, of course, because we don't use that word. Or do they look like a strong wind could blow them down? Or do they actually invest in themselves? Because that's a lot of this on the indies. A lot of these people will not invest in themselves. You will not see them buy their own gear. You will not see them with good gear. You will not see them buy merchandise, T-shirts, none of that. But yet they expect to draw 250 or better at their little shows there in these towns that nobody's heard of. I'm going to give you an example of one guy who meets all that criteria, and that's Mr. Ray Fury. If you do not know who he is, I suggest you look him up. He's one of the top guys on the news right now. That guy is money. And I hope he's listening to this because, man...
his name's been coming up a lot, too.
Ray Fury, like I said, somebody needs to sign him, seriously. Because I'm gonna tell you, he's a professional. His gimmick stands there, his whole presentation, and no matter who you put him in that ring with, it's going to be gold. And your brother can witness.
You want that.
And your brother can witness that, because he's been there, he's done it with me. That is what the indies should strive to be. It's like if you want that next level, Like when somebody shows up wearing Walmart Under Armour gear with tennis shoes and hands me a mixtape and says, "Play number 3," that is not the mark of a professional.
No.
And
Tina, what were you going to say just a moment ago?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Back to you.
I got ahead of myself.
I don't know if I remember. It was an off the head question. Goodness, put me on the spot. No, I
Sorry.
don't remember what it was.
Oh, you know what?
I was trying to bring you back into it.
I got an idea. You guys were talking about AEW Dark. Well, there was a guy who was recently on AEW Dark that is phenomenal also, who represents himself properly. His name is Vanish.
I've heard of him.
Vanish will be doing some appearances with me very soon. He is another good untapped resource. He gets booked a lot. And that kid is money. He really is. And of course, we always have that independent talent there marches to the beat of his or her own drum. And I want to give a special shout out to the athlete, because I'm going to tell you, that guy is getting out there. He's doing the miles. He invests in himself. And I'm going to tell you what, that guy knows how to promo.
That's good. Oh, I remember my question now. We were talking about promos and the lack
Promos,
thereof.
all right.
Okay. Do you think maybe it's because it's younger people who are now getting into wrestling? You know, I'm in my 30s, and I think you guys are probably older than I am.
Oh, gee, thanks. No, I'm just kidding. I heard something.
30.
We'll cry now.
Young
Anyway.
30s, 33. So
I'm 21.
Just a little bit.
I'm just kidding.
Okay, everyone is 21 at heart. Do you think maybe it's because kids nowadays are not being brought up actually socializing and being able to talk to each other, and they, most of the communication is now going over social media, on cell phones, texting, and things like that. So they actually get to sit there and think about what they say, and they don't get to it. They don't have the experience of actually talking off the top of their head anymore. Do you think maybe that has something to do with it?
That's a good thought, because too many of these young people keep their face buried in social media and buried in the phone, where they can't even walk in the next room and communicate with the next person.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. If you want to be a TV quality superstar, no matter if you're male or female, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to be able to sell yourself, and the promo is the first order of salespersonship. There we go. I don't want to sound too, the first art of the sale is to sell yourself, and the first art of that sale is the promo.
Mm-hmm.
If I say Eric Nelson, manager champions here, let me tell you about the Extreme Phenom. For those of you who think you're ready for that title shot, are you ready to go to the Extreme? Are you ready to be phenomenal? Well, if you are, I invite you between these ropes, because tonight it'll be you and Extreme Phenom for the Stranglehold World title, and you better be ready, because I'll be watching. Because if you lose, you're fired.
You just sold me. I'm ready to go.
And I'm just some. Oh wait. One of my critics says, "Well, you're just some bald guy in a suit." Well, they hate me because they ain't me.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
All these people that used to come to Mike Money with their hands out, they've done nothing to better themselves, better their own products. They're still in the same sad sack trailer park. I've seen better wrestling out of a sandbox, out of kindergarten class, than half those people.
I remember there were so many times, like, we would see a match, and one of the things we say, "I'm just clapping because it's over." I hate being like that, but sometimes, you're just like, dude, why are you out here? Terrible, but,
yeah.
It's like you would think the pandemic would have shut a lot of these just second-rate people down by now. You know, everybody comes to me, well, you're not being consistent. You're not running shows because I'm smart with my money. Because I have a feeling that somebody's about to throw us a curveball here real soon. So I need to relax. But I do have a couple of event announcements that we'll get into. Wow.
So, tell us more about your manager and champions moniker and how you got to that point and how's that parlays into now.
Well, like I said, I've managed lots of talent all over the country. I managed you remember Joseph Von Schmidt, don't you?
Yes.
Now that's a professional.
Oh, I like him.
He is the reigning,
you like him, Tina.
Tina, if you don't know who he is, go look him up. He's on his Facebook page as Peter Schmidtke. He is Joseph Von Schmidt. He is the reigning Stranglehold International Champion. And I tell you what, many miles and many shows with that man. I have been ringside with him as his manager. And I'm going to tell you what, he also has trained some of the best independent talent out there because he had his own school for many, 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 many years right there in McMahon's backyard in Connecticut. Oh, wow. So I first met him in Pennsylvania. And he says, hey, you're a pretty good manager. Stick with me. We'll go places. I've been in New York, New Jersey. I've been all over the place with that guy. So, you know, when I left Georgia, you know, and started the AW expansion project, you know, we opened up brands in West Virginia. We opened up brands in Virginia Beach. We ran shows everywhere. And Von Schmidt was part of that expansion. Then, of course, one thing about wrestling that is missing also is a proper comedy relief act. You always have to have at least one comedy relief person on your card. And I look no further than Dr. Quack. He has his own podcast, too. He does. He's a pretty smart guy, but he is hilarious. That goes a long way. He is probably the funniest heel I've ever known. He's goofy and he knows it.
That's great.
But I've traveled the roads with him. You know, when I actually started up in West Virginia, he kind of took the reins and kind of helped me run things there. He helped me establish a presence in Tennessee for a short time. It's just, you know, the biggest challenge about that AW expansion was the fact that I was active duty. And, well, they say, hey, we need to send you here for a while. Well, I mean, I couldn't exactly say no.
Right.
Because, you know, I was property of the United States government at that time. So, here's what I like to say about wrestling across the country. When you look at the independent wrestling market, what gets over down here will not necessarily get over in the Carolinas. What gets over in the Carolinas may not necessarily get over in the Northeast. What gets over here may not get over in Texas. But what I like to do is I like to take the best from those parts of the country and say, all right, I'm going to put you guys together. I'm going to have you show me what you know in front of all these people. And I'm going to mix it to a nice, great, big old casserole. Right?
You
know,
that's brainstorming right there.
And the other problem with the indies is too many people are afraid to go out of their own comfort zone. They're afraid to travel to any promotion greater than 30 miles outside the last show they did. And they become mediocre at best.
Yeah.
That was the one thing that Bordell had told my brother. He's like,
Bordell Walker,
you want to really get around? He's
Bordell Walker came to me in He came to me in Charleston, South Carolina. He said, "Bravo, sir." I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "You get it." He said, "You know, you got to get out of Georgia and get out there." I said, "Shoot, I've been out of Georgia." I said, "I'm just now making my way back down south. I've been in the north. I've been in the Midwest. I'm just now making my way back south." I said, "It's good to see you." I hugged his neck. Always a pleasure to work with Bordell Walker.
Yeah, now, you know, he's very good.
He's an old hand by now, but I'm going to tell you what, he is still doing it right. Bordell Walker, he should have been world champion.
Absolutely.
He should have been on top by now.
He's always had that great look too. He had a great build.
Wardell Walker was always quality.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other thing that the independent scene is lacking is quality over quantity. Everybody thinks, well, let's just go out and run a show just for the heck of it. Okay, well, why don't I just take, $200 or $300 and wipe my rear end with it, flush it down the toilet, because that's about the same result I'm going to get. Everybody thinks if they draw 100 people anymore, they think they're doing something. Now, what business sense does that make, ladies?
Nothing. I want to go someplace where the people know what they're doing.
Well, let's get into that. Let's get into that, shall we?
Okay, let's get into it.
Since you pulled my cord, since you let me pull the Manager of the Champions
Look what you
cord
did, Tina! No,
tonight,
I'm kidding.
tonight right here.
I'm not saying he doesn't know what he's doing.
I know.
Tonight right here in Champions Corner with the Manager of Champions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's two big events that are coming up, and I hope to God that COVID does not come back and bite us in the ass. I mean, the butt, sorry.
That's okay.
It's okay.
That's okay.
So we have Winterfest approaching December the 18th and 19th at the Georgia World Congress Center. We're not talking about some flea market here. We're talking about the Georgia World Congress Center. We're talking about loud and proud, live and in living color. Stranglehold Championship Wrestling and the 6th main event quality matches along with one of the greatest tag teams of all time, Demolition, in the house.
Yes.
Action Smash.
Wow.
We'll be
Awesome.
present signing autographs. I'm negotiating more. I don't want to spill the beans just yet, but there are several people of legendary proportions that may sign on before this is all said and done. Now, the creme de la creme, the WrestleMania moment that we've all been waiting for, MomoCon, the 26th, the 27th, the 28th, and 29th of May, 2022 in, wait for it, the Georgia World Congress Center. On the 27th of May, 2022, Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle will be present. Not only will he be watching and taking notes on who's the best, he'll also be signing autographs, selling merchandise for yours truly.
Awesome.
And one of the most brilliant men, and if you don't know this about this man, God, he is one of the most intelligent people I've ever met once I got to know him outside of his persona. The Big Red Machine Kane will be Saturday, May the 28th at the World Congress Center, signing autographs, taking pictures. He might choke slam somebody, who knows? Depends on what mood the big guy's in, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I bet Alex is excited for that one. My nephew.
Just don't say the balls suck and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Love you, sir. Love you, sir. Please don't hurt me.
Yeah, you have those
also,
coming. Go ahead.
And you know me, I never stop. I never sleep. The gears are always turning. I am working on some more deals, some more shows, some more out of this world arrangements. I am working with the greatest of all time as we are speaking. And, like I said,
that could be a plethora of people. So who could you tell us who exactly?
Well, I don't want to spill the beans yet because,
okay,
there's
that's our only clue. Yes.
There's lots of things. Hey, there's lots of things in the oven cooking, but there's nothing ready to eat yet.
Yeah,
Can you
absolutely.
tell what the Manager of Champions is cooking? Anyway, had to steal it, Dwayne. Sorry, I can't do the eyebrows very well. There we go.
You're fine. You're fine. Well, you recently, y'all recently had a convention in Jacksonville, RiverCon.
That's right. Oh, yes, I do want to announce that. River City 3 will be taking place June the 11th, 2022.
Okay.
I intend to walk in there full force. What the gentlemen who host the event are hoping for is kind of a WCW reminiscent kind of festival. So
it looked like it was pretty successful for
It was. Sergeant Slaughter was an absolute pleasure. Of course, that was not my first time working with him. He's say what you want to about the man. He is wonderful. He's the only living G.I. Joe, a true champion in professional wrestling and a true ambassador to the sport of professional wrestling.
Absolutely.
And they don't make them like him anymore. Let me tell you.
No, they don't.
Yeah, there was also Jerry the King Lawler was there.
That's right. There we go. Have a look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's pretty.
Now, now you ladies, I'm sure are familiar with NXT. Y'all know the referee Aja Smith.
I think so. Mm-hmm.
Here's a rare picture. This is Wildfire Tommy Rich, the reigning Stranglehold Women's Champion, Brandy Scott Baker, and they're removing Aja Smith from the ring. That's a 1 in a million shot right there, let me tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Oh, yeah, speaking of Jerry Lawler, one of the last things we did, even during COVID, was it was the last appearance, wrestling-wise, I ever made with Mike Money. We went to Jerry the King Lawler's 50th anniversary show in Tennessee.
Oh,
you were a part of that, huh?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, take a look-see.
Oh, wow.
And here we go. That way.
Look
I
at
love
there.
Jerry Lawler.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
amazing.
of course, right beside him. Let's see. Here we go.
Oh,
Yes.
there we go. A quick story about Jerry Lawler. When my dad was in his early 20s, he lived up in the southern part of Indiana, right across the river from Louisville, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
And his promotion used to travel all the way around there. So Tuesday nights was when it's where the Ohio Valley Wrestling it was something different at the time, but it's the same building as OVW, where OVW is.
Yeah, OVW is still OVW, I believe.
Yeah. And actually, that's where my dad took my mom for their first date, and
Now that's awesome.
Jerry Lawler.
And I got a great story after that one. But keep going.
Jerry Lawler threw someone out of the ring, and they landed in my mom's lap, and that was her first experience at a wrestling match. So that was funny.
That's
got
awesome.
a second date, so. But he never got to meet him, even though he had seen him wrestle like hundreds and hundreds of times. And
That's the same.
a couple years ago, I actually got to take him to meet Jerry Lawler, and that was a really cool experience. So
Nice. I love that.
I love Jerry. Great guy. Of course, there's pictures on my Facebook from the Jacksonville show. Oh, here's another piece of advice. Never challenge Sergeant Slaughter to a drinking contest. Don't ever do that.
I don't think
plan
I
on
have to worry about that.
Then, of course, I'm walking down the stairs. I am slammered. I mean, you can see the pictures. I do believe your brother joined me for that escapade. But
He probably didn't feel a thing because he was coming off that surgery. Yeah.
did he also tell you about the Crown Royal in a can that we found while we were in Florida?
No,
Oh,
I
man,
haven't
missed
really
out.
talked to him since then.
Shame on him. I'm going to get on his butt for that. Anyway.
Please do. Please do. Thank you.
He's probably watching, just laughing. Anyway,
Yeah, I need to call my sister. Then
So-
he never does.
so we talk about great moments, great personal moments for wrestling. I think the greatest one was the night I went from just working the regular commentary table to actually being the interviewer, and it was the night that Brandy Scott Baker made her debut in Fort Valley, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that is my now wife. And that was the moment in time that I met my wife for the first time. It was in between those ropes, center of the ring, in front of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will say that I was with someone else at the time, and things weren't going so hot. But that's not to mudsling or any of that. But it's kind of like time stood still at that very moment in history. I'll have to send you guys a picture later. But you just never know how random something like that can be. You never know you're going to meet your soulmate in a small little building in the middle of nowhere, in the center of a wrestling ring.
And
of course, we
met a lot of lifelong friends there. Memories that last a lifetime. I mean,
and that's
what
one
Mike
thing
Money
that-
created. It was just, it might not have been a lot to a lot of people, but for like me, Nelson, other people, I mean, this is something we'll remember forever. I mean,
for the rest of our lives. That's it.
absolutely, yeah.
And that's something I always give Mike Money credit for, was introducing me to my wife. And of course, we have a beautiful little boy who's 6 who absolutely loves wrestling. Of course, he likes to get between the ropes himself, and
Yeah.
one of those deals.
Wrestling brings everybody together.
Yes.
does.
I've made a lot of good friends through just going to indie shows and stuff like that. And we're actually,
when you
go ahead.
When you really, really think about it, like whenever you've had your first taste of wrestling or whatever, like say, my first taste was watching Shawn Michaels in 1995 Royal Rumble. Who would have thought that watching a simple Royal Rumble would have led me to this?
I mean, there it is. I mean, let me ask you a question.
I mean, seriously, it's just...
We're talking about Shawn Michaels. Now, of course, I remember Michaels more as a heel than a face.
Yeah.
But I will go ahead and ask you this question. Who, in your opinion, is the deadliest heel of all time?
Ooh.
Deadliest.
The deadliest heel.
Ooh.
And I do mean that in a literal sense, and I'll get to that when I hear your answers.
Ooh, that's a good one. I gotta think on that one.
I mean, you guys are a little younger than me, but I can tell you, I'll tell you my experiences. But I'm gonna let y'all.
When I think of deadly and a heel, I think more in I automatically think of a hardcore wrestler. And right up there, right up there for me would be like, I would think of somebody like Abdullah the Butcher or Terry Funk.
Abdullah and Terry definitely rank in the top 5 of the top deadliest heel. I will agree with that.
All right.
Very few people remember this man, and it's a travesty because he literally was the deadliest heel of all time. He legitimately killed 2 people with the heart punch. And when you look at this man, he looked like the devil himself, and that was Ox Baker.
Oh, yeah.
When I was 6 years old, this is back when it was called the Macon Coliseum. It is now the Macon Cineplex. This is where wrestling was a reality to me. It was the crown jewel of professional wrestling.
It really was, because whenever I went there, there would be fans that would tell us, "Oh, I was here when Dusty faced whoever." I mean, you could see the glimmer in their eyes and the passion in their voice, and I felt that. So yeah, absolutely.
And I will get to my next question: the top babyface of all time. That'll be my next caveat discussion. But Ox Baker had killed 2 people with the heart punch. Now here's 6-year-old me with my friends at the Macon Coliseum. We're standing around at the snack bar. Now, of course, everybody knew that Ox had killed those people by now, right? So it's like we're standing there, and all of a sudden, it's kind of like the lights went out behind us. We turn around, and Ox Baker's standing there looking at us.
Oh, gosh.
Now, that's the homework assignment for you, too. I want you to go look at a picture of him and tell me if he don't look like Satan in the flesh. And he just had these beady eyes and that big, dark mustache. He's staring us down like he could eat us. And all my friends are hiding behind my scrawny ass. I mean, but... Sorry.
It's okay.
They're pushing me towards him. I'm like, "Hey, man, what are you doing?" He's kind of looking down at us, and the concession lady's trying to get our attention, and we're like gripped with fear. And she's like, "Do y'all want anything or not?" And he looks up and says, "Be patient. They're still deciding their order. By the way, they're with me. Whatever they want, it's on me." And it kind of stopped me in mid-stride, like, "Wait, what? You're buying me snack food? You mean you don't want to kill me and eat me? But you're going to buy me snacks? Okay, well, I'm going to get this bag of caramel corn over here. I'm going to get this cotton candy, I'm about to
get that
I know. Right there.
When you're a kid, everything,
Yeah.
We had, no kidding, armloads of junk food. Now, here's a funny story about that. There's people saying, "Ox, come on, you got to go get ready for your match. Come on." And he basically handed the lady some money, and she didn't question him after that because, everybody knew who Ox Baker was back then. They knew that was one dude you didn't mess with. What's funny, as I was working for Mr. Grady Odom several years later, that was kind of like the chatter between AWN and Stranglehold was, well, there's another incarnation of Georgia Championship Wrestling out there. And again, that's not exactly legal. Because, I found out that we technically weren't allowed to be doing it either. Just kind of made me like, yeah, I got to go, guys. Sorry. I can't be involved in nothing legal. You know what I'm saying? I'm in the military. Anyway, so Grady was telling me a story. He was actually one of the people going to get Ox from buying a bunch of little kids some snacks. I'm like, hey, if it was the same time frame, then I was one of those children. So it was kind of weird, a bizarre twist there.
Mm-hmm.
But that was to me the deadliest and scariest heel of all time. I mean, that was legitimate fear for a 6-year-old.
Oh, absolutely.
Then you fast forward.
As far as the baby face, wow. There would be a good bit in that convention for sure.
Let me finish the last part of the Ox, and I'll piggyback on the baby face. But
okay.
Fast forward several years later, I'm going to show up north, and I see Ox Baker there with his 2 dogs sitting in a lawn chair. And of course, even though he's older and sadder looking, he's still Ox Baker. He still has the big bushy eyebrows, the mustache. Still looks like he could kill you. Definitely a guy you wouldn't mess with.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I walk up to him. I said, "You probably don't remember this," but I told him a story about him buying me the junk food and how I went from fear to respect. I said, "Where are you staying at?" Apparently, he was staying in a efficiency hotel in town. So not only did I take him back to his room after the show was over, but I took him out to eat first at a steakhouse. I paid the whole bill and even gave them a week's pay for his room and said, "It's my pleasure, sir. It's my honor to do this." Because I felt, awesome. I was like, you taught me something very valuable. And little did I know that in my adulthood that I would be in this business. That was, I can't necessarily say that was a catalyst, but it was one of the things that sparked an interest. It was kind of weird. There were so many things pointing that I would end up in the professional wrestling business, even at a young age. ECW was kind of things that started it because I was there partying and drinking and acting like an idiot with these guys and enjoying myself. Okay, babyface. Top babyface of all time, and go.
Ooh.
The first one that comes to my mind is Ricky Steamboat.
Steamboat, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I would definitely say he's in my top 10. I was actually supposed to have Steamboat as my guest for River City. But some scheduling conflicts happened. I ended up with Stardust Slaughter, which I cannot complain.
Absolutely.
And I love me some Stardust Slaughter. Loved him as a heel too.
Yeah.
Definitely loved him as a babyface, especially seeing Stardust Slaughter. Even as often as I have, I still feel like I'm 10 years old playing with G.I. Joes.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's just wow. Anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of drawing a blank, but I'm going to give you a generic answer that probably most casual wrestling fans would do, and that's going to be Stone Cold. That's the only one I can think about right now.
Stone Cold top babyface, huh? I would have said top tweener.
Yeah, he's the top tweener.
Well,
for sure.
yeah, but when he did change over, it was monumental. But yeah, that was the one person I couldn't stop thinking about.
It's kind of like the Undertaker is supposed to be a heel, but everybody loved him.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Taker's a good one, too.
Okay, so I will go ahead and say Mr. Wrestling number 2.
Yes.
You don't know who that is? Look him up. Now, this was back during the original Georgia Championship Wrestling days. One of the things that towards the tail end of his career before he just went on to the Indies and ultimately retired was his feud with Magnum TA. Now, of course, Magnum TA, for those of you who don't know, would have been the guy.
Yep.
He'd been the next Ric Flair had it not been for that automobile accident.
Yes.
Because
I schooled somebody on Magnum TA the other day. I was too proud of myself.
He was like, I'm going to tell you what, that man before his accident was on fire. Now, Mr. Wrestling number 2 was the closest thing to Superman in Macon, Georgia.
Yeah.
Okay, this was back when they had city titles. Now, if you pull up a picture of Wrestling 2, if you go to the Stranglehold page, there's if you go to my photos and scroll way down, you'll see a poster that says Once in a Lifetime, and he's standing there and he's wearing this chromish silver belt. That was the Macon City Championship belt.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's the final appearance of Mr. Wrestling number 2 was that event.
Mm-hmm.
He handed me his mask and he got in the car and he left. And I felt like Superman just handed me his cape. Because to younger me, Mr. Wrestling number 2 was like it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He was it. I mean, he was everything the young wrestling fan could have aspired to be. To me, he was a bigger baby face than Hulkamania Hulk Hogan. Even though
Absolutely.
Hulkamania was media creation number one, and all Hulkamania really was a media machine to begin with. But Mr. Wrestling number two was just straight up pure babyface.
And you know what? People still talk about Mr. Wrestling number two to this day. Like, you can ask an old school fan. That's going to be one of the first people they mention is Mr. Wrestling number two. So, yeah.
And here's one thing. I brought up Deadliest Heel and top babyface of all time for a reason. It doesn't really apply to you ladies, but to a lot of the would-be new people getting in the business watching this, if you don't know your history, why are you in this business?
Right. Absolutely. Thank you.
Right.
Somebody said it.
If you do not know your history, why are you here?
Right.
You know, I don't claim to know everything, and
I definitely don't.
Yeah, absolutely. And so
I'll be honest with you.
You know, you just try it. There, you always can go back and look, and that was the one thing I did with my nephew. I said, go back and watch the old school stuff because that's what me and my brother did. Me and Alec. Once we discovered wrestling, we got all the tapes. We have all kinds of magazines.
Yep.
That's one thing I'll say about him. He is a scholar to this business, and which is another reason why he got inducted into my Hall of Fame.
Yeah. You're welcome, by the way. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, you know, I love that guy. You know what I'm saying? I can't say enough good things about him.
My niece is 13. And when she was about 7 or 8 is when she started watching it with me because I lived in the same town with her then. And she started watching wrestling with me. And well, actually, it was a little later because I was living in Marietta at the time, and I had just met Dallas and was started going to his yoga studio.
That's awesome.
And she was going to come and stay with me for a week. And she was like, she came with me and she got to take a picture with him and stuff. And she was like, well, who is he? I haven't seen any of his stuff. So we went back to his WCW stuff.
Yeah.
And it's funny because she actually came out of that a Sting fan.
I remember Dallas as a manager.
Yeah.
Before he ever wrestled.
And then the next time I take her, she's asking him questions about that match and stuff. And he's just sitting there like, who is this little 9-year-old asking me this question about a match from 1997, you know? So.
The year I started watching wrestling, 1977.
Yeah, I wasn't here yet.
I have followed wrestling since 1977. I remember the territories very vividly.
Yeah.
You know, of course, we never really saw events come down to our area until the late part of the mid-'80s because we had Georgia Championship Wrestling, we had Fred Ward Promotions. You know, it was not uncommon to turn on a TV on a Saturday and get Mid-South Wrestling in certain times.
Yeah.
We'd get Mid-Atlantic. Basically, all WWE ever was a collection of stolen goods and turned into a museum. That's all it really was. Because, okay, the top dog, and I do mean that kind of as a pun intended, of Mid-South Wrestling was the number one JYD, Junkyard Dog. He was the top babyface in Mid-South. Yeah. When Vince McMahon brought him in, he didn't do nothing with him.
And he was so likable too. You could not like JYD.
Right.
And, and Mid-South gave us another thing. Who knows the history of the $1 Million Championship? Any of y'all know? The $1 Million Championship. You know, Ted DiBiase's big gold and diamond belt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is how $1 Million belt came along. They're walking around the locker room. Hulk Hogan's getting ready to drop the belt, take some time off. I think some movies were being ready to be shot or whatever. They had just signed all these people from Mid-South. So Hulk decided to drop the belt on Macho Man, which left, okay, who's going to be Intercontinental Champion? Well, Jake the Snake Roberts no-showed, which he was known for. Yeah. Say what you want about the guy, but I don't think very much of him. Just me. Everybody's right.
He's a different person now.
He is now, yes.
Yep.
I still wouldn't trust him. Never turn your back on a snake. And that's a very true statement, especially in this business.
Yeah.
And I hope y'all learn that real well. So he wasn't there. Rick Rude wasn't there. They led up to the Honky Tonk Man. And the Honky Tonk Man said, "Well, I want to be the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion in history." And that left one of the top heels they had just signed for Mid-South, Ted DiBiase. So like, well, gee, Ted, now we don't have anything for you. So he says, "Don't worry about it." He dyed his hair blonde, became the $1 Million Man, and created the $1 Million Championship. And that by itself got him over more than anything.
Yep.
Got him over more than if he had been the WWE champion, the Intercontinental champion, or even a tag champion.
Yep.
He was one of those that should have been WWE champion, but hey, he's got a legacy that hardly anybody can top.
Well, and here's a positive thing I'll say about Jake Roberts, okay? Ready? Jake Roberts was one of those guys, he did not need a belt to get himself over.
No.
Not one bit.
Absolutely.
I mean, look at Superfly Jimmy Snuka. Did he need a title?
No.
No.
Did Roddy Piper technically need the Intercontinental belt?
No. He didn't need anything.
You have to look at, and here's the other thing. What wrestling is missing as a whole, larger than life characters.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You see, Vince McMahon created a Stoll Menagerie and turned it to a museum because they had a barefoot guy that would jump off, the top of a steel cage. He had a drill sergeant. He had a Hulkamaniac. He had a Macho Man. He had an Elvis
Dead Man
impersonator.
Rising.
Yeah.
The story of The Undertaker, here we go. That was also a plagiarized idea from the independent scene. That was a tag team that was trying to break into the Indies really bad from Connecticut called, wait for it, The Undertakers.
Oh, wow. I never heard this story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely get yourself
There's
another
no
beverage
such
for
thing as a new idea.
Nope,
They
because
get
of all-
stolen.
because
They actually had AWN actually had the Underfaker back in the mid 2000s.
well, that was a spoof, and that actually got gimmick of the year
Yes.
that year.
I remember, yeah. Oh, Neil.
Well, I mean, before that, he was Sergeant Major Neil Douglas, a Sergeant Slaughter knockoff.
Yeah.
He wasn't the greatest wrestler in the world, but let me give him props, and I miss that guy for this reason. He was a great trainer.
Yeah.
He was one of those guys that actually trained a lot of the guys that actually went somewhere. Once Rampage Pro Wrestling came in, a lot of the guys ended up going to Rampage and doing bigger
Yeah.
stuff with Johnny Gayton. Neil helped train him, and so did Ash.
I remember him.
Our
Yep.
resident Juggalo there. Miss that guy. He was cool too.
Yeah.
Ash always had the crowd. But anyway,
Mhm.
what we're missing in today's business, and this is what I try to, if you look at my roster, okay, I've got the German as an international champion, I've got an African wearing, U.S. title. I've got their own flair about who they are. In other words, they could stand alone on a poster and draw.
Yeah.
See, that's the other thing. A lot of these indie guys, they say, well, I'll come in for $150, $200. Okay, so if I put you on the poster, says, come see this guy at this place at this time, how many people going to buy a ticket?
Yeah. How many are even going to know who you are?
Exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we're gonna wrap it up here, and
I would like to do a part 2 to this sometime because there's a lot I can.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know you can write a book, Nelson. And before we do wrap it up, let everybody know where they can find you and find Stranglehold Championship Wrestling and all that good stuff.
Well, Stranglehold Championship Wrestling, of course, on Facebook, SCW Network on Twitter, Instagram. I also have a YouTube channel, Stranglehold Championship Wrestling Network on YouTube, or it could be just Stranglehold Championship Wrestling. I don't know if we've changed that over yet.
Okay.
And also, by the way, did you say you lived in Marietta, Miss Miller?
I do.
I want you to check out one of my illustrious sponsors, Flashback Games, right there on Canton Road. They're one of our top sponsors for Stranglehold Championship Wrestling. And it's got an old school retro feel. There's even some wrestling memorabilia in there, so you can go in there and take some pictures and go down memory lane.
Okay. And you say Canton Road?
Canton Road, 2800 Canton Road, right next to the U-Haul store.
Okay.
Yep. It was good having you with us, Nelson, and
Yes.
glad
Enjoyed
you
it.
got to spend some time with us and
Oh yeah,
throw
we
down
got
some knowledge and
hour and 15 minutes,
tell
and
some
that,
memories.
and that
Yeah.
barely scratches the surface.
I know. Yeah, we definitely appreciate having you on, and we will definitely see all of y'all next time. Like, subscribe, share Peaches and Power Bombs on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Peach Bomb Pod.
Yes, and the next 2 months are going to be really big for Peaches and Power Bombs. We have a lot of interesting guests lined up. We won't tell you who yet, but we're really excited about what we have going on. So y'all stay tuned.
And that's right, Peaches and Power Bombs, where they will treat you like a champion.
Absolutely.
And I'm
Yes.
out.
All right. Bye.